and a few other people are also on here. Please share your cameras, like just because you may not want to share your camera, just share it anyways, and then that way we can all say hi to everyone. It's more fun that way.
Well, that, and in these type of regional like classes, right? I know we have a few states represented already in here. If you're not licensed in those other states, you guys are so close together, there's going to be major referral opportunities that come from this room. Right. So when we get to the role play pieces, when we get to the practice part, because this is about seller presentations today, get your practice in here so that you're not doing your first rehearsal on your first potential seller.
The thing
right?
I mentioned this another Ignite session, but I always refer back to basketball players. If you're in the NBA and you're a basketball player, you want to practice before you go to game day. We practice during script practice. We practice on Ignite. We practice with other agents. As soon as we talk to that lead, that's game day, right? So you don't want to be practicing on that lead you just spent the entire first 3 months of your career trying to generate. You want to practice with us, and then that way you are ready for game day when you talk with your leads.
Yeah, and so here's our game plan today, right? So we'll probably end up going about 2 hours total today. I do plan on taking a break at 9:50, and I got to remember I'm in Eastern time, so I got to watch my clock, right? And so one of the things that's going to be very important today for you to play all in is that you have your marketing profile complete in Command, because today we're going to work on actually creating and presenting that listing presentation. Right, this is going to be the core foundation of your business. And so we're going to look at the different methods of how to market listings, how to like clearly identify the characteristics, the pros and cons, and use cases on, okay, what do I say when, right? And so you're going to be able to walk out of here knowing how to create marketing using Command. Sound good? All right. Smart Me says I should remember to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Cool. You guys can see the front of the slide deck here. I'm on 4 monitors, so I'm not sure which one shared. Awesome. So this is the skill we're going to focus on today, right? Making seller listing presentations and getting those listings, right? I'm going to assume that you guys have been in the Spark session, right? Working with sellers. We're going to build on that knowledge today. And, you know, it's okay to go through Ignite more than once. This series of classes, this is the fundamental systems for agents to get to a capping level. There's a common misconception that it's just for brand new agents. No. This is how you get to that capping level, right? Because the things we talk about in here are the same things I've talked about with agents who've been in the business for 2, 3, 5 years and have done like 5, 6 transactions a year, and we're looking to get to that next level, right? So here's our roadmap. Right. So this first part, we're going to be very content heavy. And then as we dig into the second half here, this is going to be very interactive, right? So what sellers want, right? We're going to look at what they say they want and how that affects your conversations with them, right? And then we also have what's going on before the appointment. And you know, the best listing appointments they're just continuing the conversation. It is not like the first time you have ever talked or texted with this person, right? And so we're going to talk about how you're going to prepare yourself and your future seller so that when you do get to the kitchen table or, you know, or by Zoom for those of you doing virtual ones, right, how to get the most out of that listing appointment. And then we're going to cover what a good listing presentation is. What should it achieve, right? And, you know, when you're in that appointment, how do you establish yourself as the local market expert, right? And what's the information you need to gather and for you to market and to sell their home, right? And so after today, right, you're going to really get a handle on the expectations for how to have a successful listing appointment, but more importantly, where to find the resources to get started, right? And so let's talk about like, how do sellers actually find an agent, right? And so the National Association of Realtors puts out this research every year, and it's so consistent, it's honestly not even worth updating the slide. We took 2019 because it was the nice, pretty colors as we were putting this together. Every fall, NAR publishes this research. The percentages have changed by 1 or 2% from these notes, but the order is still the same, right? So you'll notice, right, 39% of sellers either knew their listing agent already or were referred to their listing agent by a friend or a neighbor or relative, right? Somebody who was already able to connect with them. This is by far the #1 way, right? Now, 27% had actually used their listing agent previously to buy or sell, right? So they have, it's also a relationship they're already in. 5%, right, chose their realtor after being personally contacted by them, right? So the realtor was the first to reach out in about 5% of cases, right? And that was like cold. This is what we call a cold call, right? 4% find them through your website. 3% actually go visit the open house, and that's how they meet their agent, right? And then every other possible method combined is that last 22%. Like, hey, I saw for sale or open house sign and I called. Or, you know, I had a referral through another agent that I know who works in another state, or an employer, or they got a postcard, or they saw a post on social media, right? And so, you know, as you've continued to go through Ignite, we've learned that your business is your database, right? So, and feel free to come off of mute for this, because I want to really kind of get your take on this. What does this data tell you about the importance of building relationships to getting listings?
For myself, it kind of just reinforces the millionaire real estate agent model, and it reinforces how it really is following up with that 36 touch system, 36 interactions through a calendar year with the people in our database in order to keep us top of mind within their heads. Because right here we can see that 39% of our possible business is going to come from a friend, neighbor, or relative. But there's so often than not where you have an agent who comes in and they don't talk to their friend, neighbor, or relative, and then they aren't top of mind when they think of real estate, and then they wonder why the business isn't there. But that's my take on it. I feel like it reinforces that model.
Yeah, well, thanks, Benjamin. Anyone else want to jump in? All right. So for those of you who have a financial advisor, how did you find them?
Well, I found my financial advisor through a friend. So a friend
so it was a
recommended
referral.
it. Was a referral. A friend recommended me to him.
Got it. And when you go car shopping, do you start with looking at the cars online? And then when you get to the decision point, oh, hey, you know, which Chevy dealership should I go to? You ask around, right? There's a lot of social credibility that comes with professional services like this, right? And here's another question I want to throw at you guys. Would you be surprised to learn that 75% of sellers only talk to one agent before selecting one?
That is surprising.
And only 15 actually talk to a second one. So that means 90% of people looking to sell their home are talking to 2 agents or less. Right? So how important does that make your first impression with a potential seller? Right? It's critical. It's actually most of the work of getting the listing.
So just wanted to say what people said on chat.
Thanks,
Jennifer
appreciate that.
said, starting with our sphere is great. Gupta said sphere is key. And then Amy said referral by a friend just like Benjamin.
Yeah. And so this is what we mean by that sphere, right? Is who can you get into conversation with and just, just quickly remind them, oh, hey, how's it going? Right. And boom. Oh, you're still in real estate. Well, I'm actually looking to list more houses. The inventory is crazy right now. It's so short. I imagine it's the same in New England as it is here in Chicago, where there's less and less on the market because less and less people are thinking, well, I don't know, right? So it's all about the conversation, right? So what does that first good impression look like? Well, so besides being professional, friendly, and likable, right? Sellers have very specific objectives they want to know that you can help them achieve, right? So about a fifth want help marketing their home as the first thing they say. About a fifth want to make sure it sells in a certain time frame as their most important thing. About a fifth, right? These top 3 are all like so tight together. They need help pricing. Another 16%, they want advice on improving, right? Whether it's, hey, what would it look like if we were to like change up the kitchen, paint the cabinets, and replace the appliances? How much more do you think we could get for our house with that? Right. And this one always blows my mind that 13% won't help finding a buyer, right? They assume the buyer is going to come based on the other stuff, right? And 11%, like their big thing is the paperwork, inspection, the negotiation. But just because of the beginning, right, when you ask a seller, what do you want? And they don't say, well, it's really important that paperwork and negotiations go perfectly. Doesn't mean they don't need your help with that, right? You have to remember that 27% of sellers have used their realtor previously. So that's going to influence how they respond to the survey, right? So they have a good fiduciary relationship with them. They have that trust built with their agent, right? The total value you bring across all of these areas of the listing, this is what will get you repeat business, right? And these are the things that can be very important in that first impression, right? So let's take a look at the process here, right? So what do you guys know about the process of converting a lead to a listing? What tools have you learned about so far at Ignite? I'm looking for a couple people to share, because your Ignite's probably a little different than my Ignite.
I will call people out if no one volunteers.
That's how I know I'm in New England. I'm too Midwest nice. Benjamin will play the game.
And
Smart plans.
Okay, tell me more, Janelle.
I'm just adding all your contacts into your contacts and putting them all on a smart plan, dependent on like their tags, like how you met them. If, some people might be a veteran and things like that. And when certain holidays or, certain time passes, then you send them, you add them to a specific smart plan to send them an email or a phone or call them. So that helps you stay on track with your 36 or whatever touches that you need to have in order to stay top of mind.
Love it, right? So that's the lead gen piece, right? I love that. The more specific and personal those conversations can be, the easier it is to actually convert that lead and work with you. And that's what makes these smart plans so smart is, we have everybody in groups of how we know them based on, similar things like Janelle talked about if they're a veteran or not. That's an important part of your relationship with them. You can use that to just make a deeper connection. And then when it comes time, it's going to be you or less likely another agent.
So I just wanted to add in there with the smart plans. One thing that my agents in my office tends to really like thinking about them in this way is splitting them into 3 categories. You have the habit smart plans, which are helping you keep good habits. You have the follow-up smart plans, which are helping you follow up with people, let's say during the listing process, during your buying process. And then you have the set of smart plans that you're using for lead generation, the 36 touch system, like Janelle was saying.
And I really love that breakdown, Benjamin, because the real key comes from the follow-up, right? And, for those of you who've been around sales outside of real estate, that most sales don't happen on the first, second, third, fourth conversation, right? That sweet spot is between 5 and 8 total conversations, right? Because it's building that trust. And so, okay. So outside of smart plans, what other tools have you guys covered and have started putting into practice?
Jennifer's saying on the group chat that circle prospecting and going to open houses. Amy is saying using KW programs like never ending referrals. I have all of my contacts tagged with the letters for calling them because of advice from Ignite. So the
awesome.
DTD2, I'm pretty sure it's called.
Yeah, the DTD2. That is probably one of the most popular database organization techniques out there. I'm going to say it doesn't really matter as long as it fits you, right? So if DTD2, right, if the jacket fits, feel free to wear it. But if that's not your style, there are other ways to do this, right? So let's say you get that lead, right? And they say, you know what, Benjamin, I'm looking to sell my house, right? There's a few steps that you take to convert that lead into a signed listing agreement, right? Some of the steps you see here in the packet and on the screen, right? These are going to be optional based on your personal style and, right, how motivated the seller is to choose you to list their home, right? But in general, you're going to follow these steps. So we have the pre-listing questionnaire, right? So this is asking the seller those big questions to determine their expectations. What's their motivation? What's their timeline? What's really important to them in this process? Because if you don't know their expectations, how can you possibly meet them? Right? If they're operating on a timeline of, Benjamin, I have to sell my house in the next 3 months because I'm moving. I have a job that I'm taking in the city. Mm-hmm. Is that going to change how you approach this?
Yes, definitely. Right. Every question that's asked on the pre-listing questionnaire is going to adjust my process when I'm going for this listing, because I'm trying to gain from that some insights into, okay, have they thought through all of the different strategies for selling this house, that they might be moving? Have they been in this listing for a long time? Is it like investment property? If it is an investment property, maybe it makes more sense to do a cash out refinance before selling the property. It's whole different strategies you can gain, but you don't know any of those until you ask that pre-listing questionnaire. And one of the resources that I love finding is, because we have Google Workspace through our KW email, if you all go to Google Forms, there's actually a pre-listing questionnaire on Google Form already template that's out there that you can just redo, change your information on, and you can reuse it.
Yeah, I've seen that Google form floating around, right? Personalize it to you because you want to make sure it sounds authentic to how you would ask the question, because they can tell if it's a robot. They can tell if it's not yours, right? If I'm suddenly putting everything in French, right, people are going to know, wait, that's not Mike, right? Well, so the goal of the pre-listing questionnaire is to really get that motivation, right? And as you build your skill set with this, that pre-listing questionnaire may end up being just over the phone, right? And once you know that motivation, this is when you schedule that listing appointment, right? To talk through the listing presentation, right? And so before you show up, right, send them a pre-listing packet. This is to help you set the stage of the expectations of the process. Is it may be that this person has never done a real estate transaction before, right? They may have inherited the property and need to sell it to settle the estate, right? And so this pre-listing packet helps you as far as, okay, here's the plan. It allows you to look as professional as possible before you even show up at the door, right? And so that listing presentation, this is the more detail about the plans. This is when you two sit down and talk about it, right? And so you set up your listing presentation to help you stick through to your plan, right? There are some ninjas out there that can do a listing presentation with a blank sheet of paper and 5 questions in their head. There's maybe like 10 of those in the entire company, right? Most every agent, most every mega team I run into, they have a specific plan that they walk in with, right? And so as we get to the second half today, we're actually going to build that, right? And then you're going to want to do a home walkthrough if you get a chance, right? So at the listing appointment, you'll walk through the property. And this is going to be where you discover things. This is where you're presenting your listing presentation packet. And this is how you secure the listing. Each step in this process asserts your value proposition in a way that brings them closer to signing with you, right? Now, we looked briefly at this for those of you who are in the Spark session. We're going to do a little more of a deep dive today on how you show up in that listing appointment and that presentation. So here's where we are on the map, right? So before the appointment, you're going to do far more listening than you are talking, right? So I'm also a MAPS technology coach. And one of the things that has come up in a couple of my coaching conversations has been, well, how do they know my value if I'm not telling them about it? And the way I challenge this coaching client is, well, let me ask you this. When someone tells you something that you're not sure you agree with, do you become emotionally closer or emotionally farther from that person? Typically farther, right? When you ask a question, you're inviting them to come closer, right? And naturally, as you ask more and more and more questions, they're going to feel so valued on how you think their opinions are, they can't help but move towards you. You're going to see them lean into the conversation, right? And so, right, you can't meet a seller's needs unless you actually know them. And the only way to really know them is to listen, right? And so set up your space when you meet with them that you can be attentive, that you're interested in their needs, right? Take notes. Put your phone on do not disturb while in the listing appointment, right? Put the focus entirely on them because you want to give them space to tell their story, right? And so in Spark, we talked about identifying like A, B, and C sellers based on their timeline, right? So who can tell me what it means to be a C seller? I'll give you a hint. It's a seller who is able, ready, and willing to do business in 61 days or more, right? It is that clear of a line. If it's 60 days, right, they're a B seller, right? So that B seller is from 15 to 60 days. An A seller is someone who's able, ready, and willing to do business within the next 14 days, right? They want to jump on this before the Super Bowl when I'm looking at the calendar right here, right? So sellers have been thinking about selling their home for a bit before they meet with you. So they have their expectations on what they think the price is and the timeline they want you to meet. Now, their expectations, they might be reasonable or they might not be, right? They may have been looking at the wrong information. They may have been surfing on different sites, and the homes they're thinking are comparative don't actually match what's going on in the market right now because they're looking at properties from months ago, right? The first step, though, is discovering what their motivation is and their time frame, right? And then we work with the seller to adjust their expectations to get to reality, right? So my little condo here, right, we bought for like $460, right? Oh, we have a hand. Yeah, come on, pull on your camera, Pankaj, and hope I'm saying that right.
So my question here is, you're defining the A, B, and C sellers, right?
Mhm.
The 15 days they're ready, 15 to 30 days they're ready, and 60 days they're ready.
Yep.
But what about if the market is not the seller friendly? And if it is like even though they are saying 15 days, 30 days, or 60 days, so do you mean that they are ready to sell, or they want the home to sell within those days?
So that is a great clarifying question. This is the people who are ready to sign that listing agreement within that time frame.
Okay.
They may have, so somebody may be ready to list their home in the next 14 days, but they're okay if it sells in June.
Yeah, so there should be a follow-up question that, yeah, I know that you want to sell it as soon as possible, but this is not the seller's market. It takes, at this time it is seller's market, but in future, suppose it's not a seller's market, then we can educate them that, yeah, okay, it's not 14 days. I understand you want to sell it as soon as possible, but this is the buyer's market. It will take a couple of months or whatever.
And so this is one of the really common conversations that comes up in a listing presentation, right? And you've actually set me up perfectly for our next piece here, right? And so the pre-listing packet you can use to help influence those questions, right? So it has three major roles, right? And you'll find this in your Ignite toolkit. I am going to drop a copy in the chat because I noticed this wasn't in the toolkit PDF for New England. So let me grab that here. But right, customize this and start with this. Oh, Benjamin, I didn't find it in that book. So let me.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. I was trying to get to it. Hold on. So
which one are you trying to sell? I have them all pulled up on my computer.
Let me grab, because I promise I can spell. There it is.
Perfect. You got it.
Yep. So so you're going to find in the chat, there's this pre-listing presentation. It's about 8 pages, right? This is one. Feel free to customize this so it sounds like you, right? Once you're comfortable with this as a model, right? Use this to have your conversation, and you can even change up the topics in this as the market evolves, right? And so the pre-listing packet has 3 critical roles in the transaction, right? First off, it states your value, right? This is a preview on what you're going to provide for them as their listing agent. They're going to have their specific goals, right? This is how you discover them in a thoughtful, systematic way, so you don't miss something as important as the reason why they're selling, right? And then there's the pre-selling piece, right? So this builds your seller's confidence and answers their questions before you even get to the home, right? Sellers use an agent because they want advice, they want expertise, right? In the same way actors and athletes use an agent to negotiate when they play in a film or when they, jump on a Netflix series. Is this a good, does this, potential series make sense for what I want to do? Right? And so making them feel they better understand the process is how you build that trust very quickly, right? And you can really save a ton of time and even handle objections that you don't even have to cover because they're in your pre-listing packet. So this can actually shrink the time you spend at the listing table and allow you to get into business faster, right? So before we really take a look into this, right, what are the biggest questions that anyone who's about to sell their home, do you think they'll ask? Oh, Carolyn, I'll drop it again here in the chat just to make sure you got it. So what questions do you expect sellers to have?
Can I ask one typical scenario here?
Absolutely.
I met with a very difficult seller about this pricing stuff. They were so adamant to say, oh, I want X price for my house. And me and my team leader, we were discussing with her and she didn't agree on like, oh, I want to sell the house at this price. How do we handle that kind of like situation? I sent the CMA and everything, but nothing worked.
So the CMA is the logic piece of it, right? And so what it sounds like is missing is the emotions around it. So here's something I always use. A lot of people understand stocks, right? So if I have Dunkin' stock, right, and I want to sell it for $100 a share, and it's currently trading at $30 a share, how many people do you think are going to want to buy at the price I say?
Perfect. I think that's a good analogy.
Right? Very few, right? Somebody's going to, unless they're like really that into Dunkin', where they're walking around in pink and brown, they're probably not buying my share. There are other shares that will meet their needs, right? And so as much as we want to dictate what the price is, it's actually not up to us. The market is going to dictate what it will sell for today. Right. And so that's probably one of the most common objections that comes up, right? So you want to make sure to talk about how the market operates in your pre-listing packet and as part of your listing presentation. I love that. And that is very real right now, because everybody's seeing on social media, right? Oh man, they offered like 105,000 over list. I was watching what Patrick Brussel was doing. I was like, wow, that's a crazy number. And it's on the outskirts of Boston. Right. What other questions do you expect sellers to ask you?
Somebody may ask how quickly the house will sell.
Yeah. Roberto, timeline is one of the most common ones. Like, okay, so how quickly are you going to sell my house? Right. And so in the pre-listing packet, we want to find out what their expectations are, and then we lay out the process of it. Right. It could be like, how much money am I going to make on my home? Right. And is this price worth it? Is it a good market for sellers? The answer to that question is always very easy. It is always a good market to buy and sell real estate. We just have to make sure we find the right person who's looking for this kind of property. Right. And so this is where pricing, marketing, and condition play a major factor in who's going to be ready to buy it. Right. Benjamin, what objections have you heard agents come across?
Sorry, could you just repeat that? I was chatting with someone in the chat.
Oh, yeah. What objections have you heard agents struggle with?
So some of the objections that I hear agents struggle with are around the commission price on okay, I want to get X amount for a commission for this listing, but because of whatever they get bullied into dropping their commission down. And one of the biggest ways that they can overcome this easily is I understand how you feel that way. That is a valid concern, but how I deal with this situation in order to make it not happen, or how I deal with this situation is I do X, Y, Z. And that simple phrase you can say over and over again, because if the person that you're talking to is coming at you or trying to bully you down for the 6% price, you need to stand your ground, or that whatever commission price you have set is between you and the person. But thanks. But so whatever it is between you and that person, you just want to go back to your value. So you always go back to your value that you provide to them. So if they go, okay, hey, but X, you go, that's a very valid concern. But what I do with my clients is X, Y, Z. This is where my value is. So, I mean, that's one of the big ones. And then another big one I get caught up is the same one that Gupta mentioned, which is, okay, hey, I did a CMA, but how do I convey the CMA to the person in a way that they understand emotionally? Because we can, as a tech person, I deal with this all day, every day. When I meet with an agent who's not tech savvy, and I'm trying to convey how command works to them, when I do it with them, I need to portray it in a different way than I do with someone else. And I think that really comes down to practicing scripts, practicing going through the entire steps before, because you're practicing, so then you can respond to people in the correct way.
Yeah. Another technique I've seen specifically around commission is to offer a menu of services at different prices, right? Think of like the car wash, right? You have your basic, you have your standard, and then you have your deluxe super premium, right? Where they wash the bottom of your car and someone comes in, lifts the hood and like scrubs every part of your engine, right? You're going to pay more for that than just like one round of soap, one round of water, right? And so you can have this as part of your listing presentation as, so here's how commission works, right? So for this price, we will do these services. For the price in the middle, we're going to do these services plus these other ones. And for the top line, here's everything that we're going to do. Which one would you like to choose? So you give them the choice, and psychologically, most people will choose the middle one on average, or the higher one. The lowest price is usually the least picked. Right, but this is being so clear on what you're going to do for this seller that you can outline it, bullet point, and have all of those on one single page. Right. And so I want to make sure that everybody has a copy of the pre-listing packet, because we're going to take a look at this as we go into the break here, right? And
I wanted to say that some individuals on the chat have mentioned that they still don't see that it within the chat. You did share it correctly. Everyone, make sure that you're utilizing the latest updated version of Zoom in order to be able to accept PDFs from the chat.
Yep.
If you're using an old version of Zoom, it won't let you download that PDF that we're showing.
Yep, and I'll even bring it up as on the screen here, right? So here's kind of the game plan here, right? So we're going to break you guys up into groups for about 5-ish minutes here, right? 5 or 6. And then when you come back, right? Or sorry, we're going to break you into the groups. You're going to read through this pre-listing packet, and then you're going to answer the questions on page 6 of your participant guide, right? These are the, right, what are the reasons sellers overestimate the value of their home, right? Page 7, hold on, my notes are, I can type, I promise, right? There are 4 questions about this, right? So we're going to send you to the breakout rooms in groups of 2. So be sure to play nice with your friend and read through it and answer the questions on page 7. And then we'll come back. We'll hear from 1 or 2 of the groups here, and then we'll take a quick break before we jump into the second half. Does that sound like a fair deal today? Awesome. So let me go ahead and hit play on the breakout rooms here. Some of you may end up with 3 folks in your room. That's okay, right? This is meant to be just kind of one of those smaller group projects. Cool. All right, we'll see you at 9:49. Oops, I know what I did here. There we go. Benjamin with the recording save, right? So this is to create a great impression with your seller, right? That you're a professional at this when you walk in the door. You're also in here, you're going to have your initial listing price and your reasoning behind it based on your research, your CMAs, right? What the market tells you this should be worth, right? And a big part of this is explaining how you believe that initial price is designed to get the home sold in the shortest amount of time for the most amount of money possible. That's your goal with it, right? And then that also sets your expectations for, you know, how you're going to market the home, right? There's dozens of ways to market the home. They all work, right? The trick is, how are you going to work with sellers based on that, right? So just like the pre-listing packet, right, there is a template for this. You're not the first, you're probably not even the 1 millionth agent to list a home, right? And so you don't have to figure this out from scratch for yourself. So there are beautifully designed templates within designs here, and we'll dive into this in a second, right? You've already looked at this before, but now we're actually going to take some time to think about it and how you're going to use this to show your seller why you are that agent that can help them achieve their goals, right? And so I'm going to flip over into Command here, right? And show you guys how to pull this if you've never done it before, right? So this is the home page of Command, right? Once you log in, you'll get here. My favorite little pro tip, if you're not sure what all the icons mean just yet, if you click the red KW square, it'll actually pop out and tell you the names as you learn them, right? And so because a listing presentation is a marketing piece, I want to get some design work in on it. So that's under designs here, right? And so anything you've already created will be here, right? But if you have not, you go up to create design in the top right corner. It might be hiding behind a face or two, right? And a listing presentation is typically printed out. So this listing presentation exists under the print category. So I'm going to click next. It's going to take me into our design editor here, and it'll take a sec just because I'm screen sharing, right? And then over on the left, we're going to dig into listings and then listing presentation. So the content across all 5 of these is very similar. It's which style, like which layout, which, pretty colors fits you, right? I want to go with this one. Why not? So I'm going to click use because I want to customize it so it's for Mike here, right? And once you do that, it takes a second to load because, there's 29 potential pages for this, right? And there's a quick little walkthrough menu, right? So this will tell you how many pages you got, right? And it'll even show you, okay, here's how you get to the different pages, right? The first couple pages are actually the instructions. So and please don't show your seller, right? Oh, hey, here's my instructions when you go to print this out, right? Take a second to really kind of dig through here, right? And so as we kind of flip through there, you want to customize it so they know it's just for them, that it's not just, a generic conversation. You want them to feel heard, acknowledged, and understood. And a big piece of that is making this about them. So if you happen to have a picture of the house, right? Or, you could even go on Google Maps and get a satellite view of town, right? Some kind of image, drop it in here, right? Compliments of you. If you have a logo, great. Make sure whatever marketing you put together, you run it by your broker, because every state has their own rules about this. I'm not going to pretend that Illinois rules apply to, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut. Everybody's got their own little tweaks to this, right? And so as you kind of work through it, you'll see, right? Let's talk about your property. Let's talk about your transaction timeline, your custom marketing plan, and how we plan to represent them, right? So this is designed to walk you through how this goes, right? And so in your participant guide, right? Remember from, I think it's page 4 of the participant guide, where it says, okay, what do sellers want from their agent, right? How much of this are we already talking about in the listing presentation, right? So this first page is some stats about the home, right? Now, feel free to take out any pages that you feel like you don't need in your presentation. That's okay, right? When you look at what are buyers looking for, right? Recent sales, this is what people are looking for. They do update this from time to time. So this is kind of a generic national trend, right? In general, people want hardwood floors more than they want carpet right now, right? And very, very much so flexible outdoor spaces. Well, maybe not so much January, but right, to use throughout the year. And then there's a place for the comps, right? There's a place for, questions on how their needs come first. But most importantly, they're looking for your help in the process, right? And so this is a page to stop at, pause, and update, because it is going to be very different based on how your contract works, and just in general, how your market behaves. So in Chicago, we have this thing called attorney review. Downstate Illinois, same state. Attorneys are not involved in the transactions. Right? And so like we can't all use the exact same process, but there's a lot of similarities here. And so get to your contracts class at your market centers to really kind of dig into how this process works. Right? I'm not gonna pretend to know every state's version of this. And then as far as your marketing plan goes, we have in here some pre-built slides for you, right? So we have, there's going to be digital marketing, which means we're going to put it on. Here's how buyers are finding homes right now. Chances are they're looking online or they're working with their agent, right? More than anything else. So we're going to ensure our marketing is aimed at that. And this is probably one of the big objections I tend to get is, okay, so what are you doing to market my property? Well, most of them just need a plan. So targeted networking means putting this on your social media, means if you have people in your sphere that you think would be looking to buy this listing, they're getting some kind of material from you that says, hey, I saw this and thought of you. Right? Or someone listed a property with me. I think it fits your criteria. Tell me what you think. Right? This means, asking around the market center. Right? Hey, who do you know who's looking for, a house in Newport? Right? I've got a 3-bed, 4-bath for that's Newport, so it's probably got a couple comments in it. Right on the bay. And so here's the key, right? If you're not going to do all of this, you want to make sure to change your packet so it's set up for you to keep your promises. Right? And so, right, if you're not going to do an Instagram story, I will not do an Instagram story. That's just not me. I always drop this line when I put together my packets. Right. And what's nice is you can actually save this as its own template, right? So you can come back to your version of it and just switch out a couple things here and there rather than have to come in from scratch and be like, okay, I got to do all these page edits again. I already did this once, right? So you'll want to make sure to rename it up here, right? And then when you're ready to go, you hit done, right? And then you'll be able to find this every time you go back into designs to be able to make a copy and then change it for your next listing appointment, right? So if you're going to do a coming soon campaign, there's a checklist on what to do to market the property, right? If you're going to do an open house, here's the strategy that you're going to share with your seller and then follow through on, right? It's like getting the answers to the test as you're taking the test, right? It's right. Looking at the details, right? If you're going to do some of these things, make sure you do them, right? What I'm looking for is this page here, right? So if you have your own statistics, use them here. If you're not confident in your sales record, delete page 17 and use page 18, right? And use the market center numbers here, right? So when you choose like, why me? Well, I'm our company, right? We outpace the market here, right? Our prices are better than this. This is what we call the language of real estate. Your MCA, your market center tech trainer, can help you find these numbers for your market, right? But this is a way to stand out. right? And of course, you only want to highlight the good stuff, right? If your days on market, right, if your list to sales ratio is, lower than what you want it to be, switch it out for something that tells you a winning story, right? Nobody wants to, like, what trust do you build when you give somebody, well, the market's doing this, but I'm way down here. I need your help to like get up here, right? That is not a way to build trust, right? There's also in here credentials for Keller Williams and, our Y4C2Ts, right? And the back, as you get to the back of the listing presentation, these tend to be portfolio pages, right? Here's what I've sold over the last several months or so, right? You want to keep this updated. And you may have featured listings of other actives you have on the market, because chances are if they're selling, they may be looking to buy somewhere. And if you have testimonials, there's a page for that, right? It's so many things in here that are designed to help you win. They're presented in this order intentionally, right? Because it tends to be, so the order we have this presented in is in how often the objections for these come up, right? And so, as we get to the end, you'll be like, okay, so we got virtual showings, I get it, right? And then so you want to make sure to keep page 27 in here. This is your documented close to get the listing, right? This is where they see, okay, let's get started. You see the plan, right? And so, right, as far as customizing this goes, I know there are several, right? The market centers do host classes on how to dig into designs and everything around that. It doesn't need to be super complicated to start from scratch. In a lot of places, you can just jump in and edit the text and replace it, right? I used to actually know this code for me, right? And then for those of you who want to get it like pretty, you can make it super pretty. You don't have to, but if you want to leave a copy behind and then have a copy for yourself to take notes, make sure on the outside of your listing presentation, either front or back, your contact information is there. Because you want to make it as easy as possible to connect with you, right? So you'll notice it's on the back of ours. It's also on the front page. Because we don't want, right, when someone's in that moment and they may not have saved your contact in their phone, be like, oh yeah, I got to talk to Stacy. What's her number? Oh, do we still have that packet? Yep, there it is. Right, you're just looking to make it easy for them, right? So, of these several pages, right, what stood out to you guys as something that felt important to you? Or did I go too fast? Because that's also often the case.
Roberto said that I like the overall flow of the presentation, also the look and feel of it.
Yeah, and as you do more of it, right, this gets into, you'll just tweak it over time.
Would you mind just showing the group again? Someone asked about where you can find this template or the listing presentation. Would you mind just jumping back to command and just walking us through how you found that one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start here on the home page of command here. I'm going to go into designs next, right? Because I'm putting together marketing material and, stuff that looks pretty. So if I've already created it, I can see it here. But if I'm starting from scratch, right? I need to create my version of it. And so I'm going to click Create Design in the top right corner. And this is print marketing, right? So I'm going to choose print to narrow down the choices. When I hit next, it's going to take me into our design editor where I get to go pick my templates, right? And since, this has to do with listings, I'm going to open the listing category and it's in alphabetical-ish order. It's a listing presentation. And so you have your choice of these 5 templates. They all follow the same workflow. The designs look a little different. It just looks and feels. So you can take your choice here on what you want to do for this. Right. And so as far as like super critical components here, right, you want to make sure to highlight their property, their neighborhood, and comparable properties when you put together your listing presentation. Because what you're doing is you're setting the stage, you're setting the context for how they're going to come to their pricing decision. Because remember, the price is up to the seller. Our goal with this listing presentation is to help them find the right price for this home. Right. And of course, we always want to be focused on their needs. Right. As we look at the Y4C2Ts, one of the C's is customers always come first. Right. So why is this page of the listing presentation, why do you think we highlight this so heavily here in the class? Why is it important? What makes this
important to build a relationship?
Yeah, it is all about the relationship, Stacy. You're spot on, right? Doing this piece right will go a very long way into earning the repeat business from this person. Yeah, Benjamin, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that Gupta said professional approach in the chat.
Yeah, so professionals, right? They ask what their client needs, right? And they go advocate for it, right? You wouldn't go to and let's see, how do I want to do this? You wouldn't go to a hairstylist, right? You wouldn't give them your, here's what I'm thinking I want to do with my hair. And you wouldn't be happy if they gave you something completely different. Right? If I walked in with like an actual plan for this hair, other than like Zoom hair, and I walked out with a shaved head, do you think my needs were met? No, it's like 3 degrees in Chicago today. That is not helpful. Right? And so, right, be ready to take notes on this page. Right? And so I actually do want to dig through these questions because we're going to do some role play with this, right?
Could I just add something to this?
Yeah, 100%, Benjamin.
I just want to bring this back to something that Gupta mentioned earlier in today's session, where he was talking about, okay, hey, he needs to, he's with emotions, right? If you're at the beginning of this presentation, your needs come first. This is when you're building rapport with the other person. So as you build rapport with the other person and you're talking about their needs, if they know that you understand their needs, when you talk about logic later on, it should make more sense. If you're having trouble talking about the logic CMA later in the presentation, it might be because you didn't build enough rapport earlier on with a relationship.
Yeah, and in one of the unique parts of real estate is the emotional attachment. Mhm. Oh, Stacy, great question. So if your market center designed a selling guide for me, but you're not sure you want to send everything from that PDF. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. If you have Adobe Acrobat Pro, you have full PDF editing capability. I do want to show you, this is kind of, we're going to get a little deeper into design. So forgive me if I go on a little bit of a trek here. You can actually upload a PDF into our design editor, and assuming it reads it correctly, you'll be able to make adjustments, right? So notice I'm in designs here already, right? I'm going to go over to my designs here at the top. And at about 12 o'clock, there's this place where I can jump in and drag and drop my PDF, right? And so let me grab, this pre-listing packet. It's going to take a second to process, right? But what it's doing is it's basically unpacking it and looking at the different things it's able to edit and change. And so when I click into it, right, there's going to, chances are some of the fonts don't exactly line up, right? And so I always pick, well, I'm just gonna pick a few, right? And I'm just gonna replace all with, and I don't remember the names of any of these. So if it looks a little funny, it's because I picked the wrong one. But it's gonna ask me, how do I want to measure it, right? I'm a big fan of the pixel just because it's super easy, right? And then, it'll process and it will change the font, it will update everything. And now I have 8 pages of PDF to jump in and edit, where I can be like, okay, this needs to be a little bit closer, right? It's not exactly perfect going this route, but it's super easy to make adjustments and be like, okay, maybe I don't want this page, or, I got to fix something here on page 3, right? So that's pretty sweet. This one's free. Adobe Pro is about like $16 a month. That is my go-to, but that's because that's where I'm very comfortable with it.
Another alternative software, just because you mentioned an alternative, is Canva. Canva has some design, is a design software you can utilize. Some people in my office, they prefer Canva. And that's just because Canva has it's free as well. And you can do Canva Pro, but it's not worth it in my point of view. But between Canva and my designs, I can do basically everything.
Yeah. Does that help, Stacy? And like, don't spend like a million hours on it, right? If you feel like, okay, hold on, I'm getting stuck, something's off, reach out for help. As a regional tech trainer, as well as, Benjamin's a market center tech trainer, our one thing is to accelerate your path.
And then just really quick, one other question. Did you say that there was a pre-listing questionnaire? You said that there wasn't a template for that. Did you?
There's not one in designs. The one I shared is from KW Connect, and we'll make sure that we get this out. I think what I'll do is I'll end up posting it in the Facebook group so everybody can get to that Word doc to be able to customize it. I think that's the easiest answer, rather than try and collect everybody's emails and then guess.
Would you like me to show you guys how to access the Google form template for a pre-listing questionnaire?
Yes.
Would that be helpful? I can share my screen really quick if you allow me to.
No? Oh, that means I gotta actually let you do it. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
You're co-host, so you should be able to do it.
Yep. Oops. Hold on 1 second. I shared the wrong thing. I shared the whiteboard rather than my Google Chrome. Share. So right now I'm in Command, right? But I'm not going to be jumping into Command. What I'm going to do is jump over to Google. Before I continue, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. I did an entire presentation once and no one could see my screen. So I always check. So you jump up here to these 9 dots next to your, after you log in, and then you come down to Google Forms. In Google Forms, you'll see right here, it says Template Gallery at the top. You click on Template Gallery, and you'll see the option between General and Keller Williams Realty Inc.
So
When
this
you-
is assuming you're logged in with your kw.com email.
Yes, because as a KW agent, I love using my KW free Google Workspace account. If you do not have a Google Workspace account and you're just using a normal email, it's just something to keep in mind that you might want to upgrade that, but that's for another conversation. So within here, I hit Keller Williams Realty Inc. And then the one I'm looking for is right here, pre-listing questionnaire. And if I click on it, this is going to go up, open up. And if you see up here, what I like to tell people is don't reinvent the wheel. You can basically just replace this image up top here with your business card. So just take a picture of your business card, put that design up there, and then just go through him and make a few adjustments for yourself. But it's asking for the name, the email, property address, phone number, preferred method of contact. Are you currently working with an agent?
Right. These questions starting to look familiar, right?
Or is the time frame of selling?
What's your time frame? Are you thinking, what does it take? How would you rate your home? What's a good time to reach out to you, right? All the basics, right?
And
Love
and
it.
something that people, or I like to tell people to leverage or to utilize is it might not make sense to send this to your client. It might make sense for you to have this pulled up and you fill in the information yourself. So that's just up to you. It's the reason why I like it is because all of the responses will be saved to a Google Sheet that's created for you. And then as you can see, it will be coming across the top here with all of that information for you. So if you're doing this with multiple people, sometimes if you're filling out that form for them, right now you're just keeping track of all of this information, very handy. And then because it's in a Google Sheet, you can then reformat the data and upload it into your command system if you wanted.
Got it. Thanks, Benjamin. That is a really helpful tool. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's jump back into the needs piece here, right? So, because I want to be very conscious of our time today. So the questions on this page, what do the answers, as I read these out loud, I want you to think about what will the answers to these questions tell you, right? So let's get started. What's the one thing that has to happen to make that dream scenario of selling your home a reality? If we could add just one more thing to make this process even better, what would it be? How can I make that happen for you? And why is that important to you? You notice that question's on here twice? Right. So these questions, what will the client's answers to these questions tell you? How you're going to earn their business, right? Yeah, Stacy, go ahead.
Kind of what their motivation is and how
Mm-hmm.
to kind of match that motivation so that, you know, if they're really looking to push faster, then you're more actively in contact with them as opposed to driving them insane if they're not quite ready yet.
Yeah, like if they don't need a text every day, great, they'll tell you, right? But if there's somebody who needs updates all the time, great. Yeah, so how to adapt your approach to marketing and selling their home to match their needs. Love it. right? What it also does is it tells you how to be an agent that they're going to recommend to their friends and family. This is the page that generates referrals. Right? And so I'm gonna jump past this present the listing presentation piece, right? We're gonna dig into, I think this is page 6 and 7. Oh, sorry, this is page 8 and 9 of your participant guide is where I want to spend, right? So rather than go through all 29 pages of the listing presentation, I want to highlight a few conversations that do come up as you go through this that you're going to want to do, right? So you're probably going to want to use these as script practice, right? When you're getting prepared to make your lead gen calls, to do follow-up, use these as part of it. So let's start with the first one here, right? And so let me make sure I can move this where I can see it and see you guys. That's the real trick in my world today. So when I'm walking in, right, I'm sitting down, right, I'm at the table. We have the pre-listing packet ready, right? So I open with, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to get your home sold, right? Did you have a chance to review the guide to selling your home that I sent you? And they're going to respond one of two ways, right? If they say yes, right, this one's pretty easy. Great. And did you complete the questionnaire at the back? Awesome. Do you have any questions about anything that was presented? Let's talk through this. So you have two choices when it comes to that pre-listing packet. You can have them send the answers to you that they fill out. My preference is actually to not have them do that, because I want to have the conversation with them at the table if they did not fill that out. And I don't want them to feel bad because I requested it and they didn't do it. That's just my style, right? And so either way, you're going to end up reviewing some of the questions in the packet as you dig into your listing presentation, right? And you want to set the stage for delivering how that high level experience is. And so as we get started in the listing presentation, I always start with what they want their experience to be, right? So I'd like for you to have a great experience selling your home. And that begins with me being very clear on what your expectations are. So I'd like to ask you about that. Is that okay? Right. And then we go through that page of the listing presentation. That's how I'm setting up the your needs page. Something to pay close attention to is if there's more than one person that you're meeting with, allow equal time for everybody at the table to give their answers. Right. You're going to find in some relationships that one partner tries to dominate. Intentionally ask the other partner, is that also important to you? How would you answer this question? Because for a lot of them, this is the first time they're really talking about what's important to them in this process. You're there as their agent and their guide, right? And as always, you want to say thank you for their openness, their vulnerability in this, right? So something as simple as, hey, thank you for being real with me. And it's knowing how to match your expectations and deliver a 10++ experience helps me serve you in the best possible way. Right. That short little piece to remember can go a really long way in securing that listing. Right. And one of the things that I want to make sure we dig into is A lot of sellers see their home through their lens only, right? How many of you have ever been to like Graceland? Right? Have you ever like toured a celebrity's home? Have you ever watched Cribs? Right? Next time you do, pay attention to how much of the home is about their personality. And would that be something you want in your house? Because you'll find the difference between a house and a home is very personalized, right? That also can limit the perceived value from buyers, right? And so you always want to set expectations around how the listing is going to be presented. This is my go-to when talking about it, right? And it's not as deep of a conversation starter as you think, right? It's just reminding them on what's so important about it. So the location and condition of the home, right? They're the first things that attract buyers and their agents. So last I checked, this one doesn't have any wheels on it, so we can't change the location, right? What we can do though, is we can work on the condition to make sure it's as appealing as possible to potential buyers, right? And with buyers, it's pretty quick. They're either attracted or they're distracted immediately, right? From that first picture they see online to when they walk up to the house, right? It all matters, right? Now, working with buyers, they rank condition as one of the top 3 things they consider when choosing a home. Most buyers want something that's move-in ready. It almost looks like a model home you'd see on TV, right? And so when they walk in, when they're going through pictures, when they're going through our virtual tour, what the buyer is doing is they're visually trying to see themselves in that property. They're imagining, okay, what would my life look like inside this place? So our goal is to help them, right? We want to set a winning stage for them so that nothing distracts them from imagining they want to be here, right? So this means our curb appeal. This means cleaning the inside of the home, right? Setting it up to where there's as few repairs as possible. I mean, when you daydream about your house and you dreaming about showing up with like a truck and a hammer and having to tear out stuff, some people do, right? Is that you? And they'll answer yes or no, right? And so, right, as few reminders as possible that someone else is living here, because what we don't want to have happen is that they start talking about your stuff and not the property, because your stuff is coming with you, right? And so that also includes not being here during showings, because we want them to have their experience. So once we agree to really work together on this, I'm going to advise you on how to properly prepare your home with staging. We may move some stuff around to make sure it's in the best possible position to present the home to as many people as possible. Does that sound good? Right, and this will start a big bulk of the conversation. Right, and notice I didn't follow the script in the book exactly. Right, I'm saying it the way I say it. Does that make sense? Right. And so at the bottom of page 9 here, these are your closers, right? You get to the end of the listing presentation, always remember to say the close, right? So it sounds like we're in agreement about the price, and it sounds like we've addressed all your questions. And so choose from any of these. right? Whichever one fits your style, right? I'm actually a big fan of the 5th one here. This is my favorite one. I had to count in my head, right? So are you ready to decide to choose me to represent you in the sale of your home? If yes, have the listing agreement ready to go, right? Bring a nice pen, right? Ideally, I mean, if you really want to get super serious about branding, a branded pen with your name and number on it. But honestly, it's a pen. As long as it's blue or black ink, your broker's probably going to be happy. Right? For those of you doing digital, set up the DocuSign room before you get to the listing appointment. Right? At least have it ready to go. Right? Or for those of you using .loop, like set up the loop. Make sure that you're in a position to start filling out the details with them if they say yes right away. Because that's your chance to like get it signed and get it on the market as quickly as possible. Right? They may also come up with additional questions, right? Address them, acknowledge them, and then close again, right? So is there anything else we need to do before we get started? Okay, so what's kind of holding you back here? What additional questions do you have? Right, and be fair to them, right? If they say they feel like they need time to think about it, ask for a timeline and reach out on that timeline. Right? A lot of people do make the decision at that listing appointment. Because remember, 75% of sellers only talk to one agent. An additional 15 talk to a second. So by getting in the room and being prepared, you get a pretty good shot of taking the listing if they're serious about it. Right? And then it's up to you to be the professional. Right? And so these were some of the seller objections. There it is. I knew this page was in here somewhere. Right. And so, right, you may get objections about, and this is in your script book, right? Or for those of you in the toolkit. Let me make sure I have the right page for this, because my toolkit looks a little different than the New England one. There it is. Right. So on page about 11 or 12, I'm just going to go full page here, right? These are your objection handlers when it comes to discussing pricing, when it comes to closing the deal, right? We need to think it over, right? Another agent will charge less. Objection number 1, right? This may be one that you feel is going to come up more often. That really doesn't come up as often as you think, but still be prepared for this, right? And so, if one other question is, well, we really want an agent with more experience, right? If that tends to be their objection, here's how to handle it, right? So KW New England is different, right? I'm a partner with other people in my office, and so we have lots of motivated agents and many years of experience working for you. Is there anything another agent said they would do that for some reason I forgot to mention? Did I cover everything you expected to hear? Because it sounds like you believe I can get your home sold. Is that true? Right, so this objection handler has been very effective. Right, when in doubt, lean on the team approach of the market center. Right, lean on how many agents you guys have. Lean on, hey, we have a phenomenal broker who helps make sure that our clients are in the best position to get the deal done. right? All those things. And then I know we talked about this one came up, right? So why won't you reduce your commission? Right? This is where a story can help bridge the gap between their logic, right? So Benjamin, let's do this, right? So let's say your boss came to you and said, I want you to do the MCTT role for less pay, and I want you to work more hours. Would you be motivated to do a good job after that conversation?
I am the wrong person to ask for that question, just because I put in endless amount of work ethic anyways, and I don't really expect any payment in return, because I believe in giving more value than I expect in payment.
Oh man, that might be the best objection I've heard to this as a side note, right? Well, for me, that does not motivate me. Like, I will work hard for you. That's what you want, isn't it? Right. Our goal here is to get you the most money possible, right? And, agents who discount their commission will also offer the buyer's agent less money too. And we want them to be motivated, right? You want to give the biggest incentive possible to the buyer's agent, so they bring the buyer that has the best price, that's ready to take action quickly, don't you? You'll notice a lot of these objection handlers are designed to be a yes or no question, right? Or they're a statement, they're a request, right? And you always want to make sure that they feel heard and acknowledged, right? It's not it should never be like a judgment call around like, oh, I knew this would come up, right? You want to phrase it in a way that feels like you care for them, because you do. That's why you're in real estate, right? If you're just here for the money, I'm sorry, this is the wrong room for you. We are here to help our clients get a win-win, find the best possible deal, right? And make sure they can go continue what they want to go do as part of their dream, right? And so, right, these are the seller objections. These are the scripts to practice, right? So that way, when these come up, because when you do enough listing presentations, these will come up, because everybody has these, that you're prepared to say what you believe, right? And so the listing appointment, this is your time to show off all that hard work and get that listing, all the prep work, right? This is your time to shine. So you'll preview the home, you'll look around, you'll, ask for the listing, present the listing presentation. The key for those of you who want to make this a super simple process is remember to update the opportunity in command when you make that listing appointment. Because one, you're able to track your future income with it. But most importantly, if you don't have an opportunity card created, it's going to be hard to start that DocuSign room, right? You're going to have to jump in while you're at their house and have that all figured out. You look way more prepared when you have the opportunity set up, you know the address you're going to, and you already start the DocuSign room.
So there's a question in the group chat that says, would you not recommend talking about all of the things you do as the agent, which warrants the commission, rather than talking about being motivated or not by a certain percentage?
So that is another way to handle the objection. There's nothing wrong with that approach, right? What you want to tie it back to is, here's the value that I'm bringing. If you get them to focus more, because in the absence of value, price is the deciding factor. If you do everything it says in that listing presentation, you will be able to get that whatever percentage commission is top notch in your market, no problem.
So when I have a degree in marketing from the University of New Haven down in Connecticut. And when I was there, they always talked about the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, promotion, and price. So those are the 4 things we can adjust when we are talking. So if you don't want to do price, you have to look at those other 3 P's on what you can do in order to, so the place, okay, how am I going to place all of the advertisements in order to help them sell this home? Okay. Promotion, okay. How am I reaching out to different people in order to help them sell this home, right? So I just wanted to bring that one thing up because sometimes it's not about the certain percentage price. It more has to do with them understanding what value you are providing to them.
Mm-hmm. And if they're really being tough about it, have that page ready of here's the things I'm going to do. And if they're like really adamant about trying to reduce the commission, be like, okay, so on this page, so the commission I have set here is so we can do everything on this page to get your home sold at that best possible price and the fastest possible timeline. So I want to make sure that, you know, we're in agreement. If we're going to reduce the commission, which of these services do you want me to cross off the list? Because I'm not going to be able to afford to do it. Sometimes you got to play hardball. And that's okay. Like, it's okay not to take a listing. Right. And so let's jump into the home walkthrough here, because I know we're right on 11 o'clock here, right? So when you show up, right, it's important to establish yourself as a knowledgeable professional immediately. Greet them, thank them for the opportunity, and ask them if you can leave your stuff in the kitchen while you walk through the home with them. So why do you think we suggest that you leave your stuff in the kitchen?
So I can't kick you out right after.
Right, that, and you're asking permission to be led into what is typically the social center of the home, right? Plus the table gives you a great space to talk, right? And it's, you know, it's just a real intimate, familiar space, right? And yeah, Stacey, you're right on, right? Also, you know, it's a little harder to kick you out of the kitchen because I find very few houses where the kitchen is right next to the front door. That's just not typically how things are laid out. Condos, yes. Homes, not so much, right? And so you want to set expectations on, hey, here's why I'm doing a home walkthrough, right? So, you know, this is going to further inform my plan on the listing information as we write out the marketing, as we talk about pricing, right? If possible, ask to do the walkthrough alone, because you want to come to your conclusions without the bias of the homeowner's narration running through your mind, right? And so there is in the toolkit, there is a home walkthrough survey, right? And when you look at it, right, there may be some things you want to add. There may be some things you want to change, right? Feel free to mix it up a bit, but if you don't have one, use this to start, right? And so, right, the final point, of course, is the closing, right? We've covered the 5 closings here to get the seller to sign the listing agreement. That is your goal of your listing presentation, right? And so whenever you do script practice, a tip I learned early on is spend the last 10 minutes working on your closing. It is that important because it's a reminder that, hey, I'm asking for the business. I'm asking permission to work with you. And without that close, you don't get that permission. That's all it is. Right. And so, you know, just want to, before we wrap up here, I want to get quick little recap and some ahas from you guys, right? So today we walked through everything from what sellers want to how to be a professional, because more often than not, that's going to be what gets you the listing. Once you get to the home, it's your listing. The odds are in your favor. As long as you've done your homework and you are prepared, you will get that listing. And it's okay not to bat 1,000%, right? Take what you learned from those experiences and apply it to your next one. There will always be someone in your world looking to sell. There always is. Even in the record low inventory market, somebody is still selling. There is no situation in the history of humankind where everybody on the planet did not want to move. Somebody wanted to change. So they're out there, right? So before we end today, I want to get some ahas from you guys before we get to feedback, right? So can I get 3 of you to share, like, what did you learn today that you're going to apply going forward? Yeah, Stacy?
I'll go. I think a standout thing that you said was that logic makes you think and emotion makes you act, and trying to have a balance of both to be successful.
Yeah, I love that. It is it's just one of those realities that we live in. Yeah, great. Thanks, Stacy. And then Roberto in the chat. Yeah, using designs to create that listing presentation, right? If you don't have one, we've gifted you one to work with, right? Any other ahas? Listen, listen, listen. Amanda, you're spot on, right? The ultimate challenge in a listing presentation is to, if you can do a listing presentation and only ask questions until the close, you've mastered the process. Right. And then Jennifer, right? That first impression is critical because most people talk to one agent. And, socially, the reason behind that is most of them were referred to you or had already worked with you in the past, right? There is that social credit. And so, yeah, your job, and this is the lead generation bit, your job is to be first in their mind when they think real estate. And when you walk in the door, chances are they're going to pick you.
And I just wanted to clarify one thing, and that's all you really need to have them do is have them think of you when they think of real estate. They don't have to think that you're an expert right away about real estate. All they need to do is when they think of real estate, they think your name. That's all you want when you're starting out. When you get more experience and you're going through your career, yeah, maybe you're thinking, oh, it's because he's an expert. But right now, when you're starting off, sometimes I feel like agents get caught up on, I need to have myself be perceived as the most knowledgeable person in the room. And that's not always the case. It's more just having them think of you when they think of real estate.
Mm-hmm. So think of it like driving, right? So as real estate professionals, you are all licensed in your state to conduct real estate business. If you're also a licensed driver, that means the state believes you are capable of operating a motor vehicle safely, that you can do the job. That's what the state exam does. You can do the job in a way that protects and enhances how consumers buy, sell, and invest in real estate. As you work through it, you'll build your expertise. but I know 17-year-old drivers who are better than 40-year-old drivers. It's not time that does it. It's your ability to learn, focus, and listen that determines your expertise. So the more you listen, the more you sound like an expert. Have you ever gone to like your doctor and they just tell you what you're feeling and then like throw Tylenol at you and say, great, you'll feel better? Or do they ask a ton of questions? Right? That's the professional approach. Awesome. So as a, guys, I just want to say thank you so much today. It would mean a lot if you could give me some feedback, right? Because I am working on my KWU certification because I want to be able to share across every region. So do me a favor, if you can scan this QR code and tell me something I did great, but even better, tell me something I need to work on. I would appreciate what I need to work on more so than what I did great, because my ego needs a check. That's just how my brain works, right? So scan the QR code or go to the bit.ly link, bit.ly/KWNE checkpoint.
So you can access all of these recordings on the KW New England YouTube channel.
Oh, sweet. So I can go watch my game tape. Awesome.
Yep.
Can I just ask a question for clarification?
Yeah, absolutely, Stacy.
So in the very beginning, you had a slide that said pre-listing questionnaire, schedule listing appointment, send pre-listing packet, create presentation, and then your home walkthrough and your listing appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So are we talking, just to clarify, are we talking about there's a questionnaire that you can send them before the listing, but like before you set an appointment, and then send them a pre-listing packet after you set an appointment, and then also prepare a listing presentation for the appointment? So is there like 3 different steps? Do you do all 3? Do you do 1 or 2? What do you recommend?
So if you're just starting out, do each of these 5 steps shown on the screen in this order, right? So before you get the listing appointment on the calendar, as you're discussing scheduling, send them this pre-listing questionnaire. Hey, while we're working on getting a date, I want you to get started on this. Then you get the date on the calendar, right? And so once you get the questionnaire back, that will inform your pre-listing packet and your listing presentation.
Okay.
Right? So you send the packet ahead, whether it's by email or, FedEx, or you drop it off and just kind of stash it on their doorstep and then come back and do the listing presentation. The presentation is the conversation.
And
Right.
I want to point one more thing out, and just think about it this way. So if you did one of these steps out of order, for example, if you did like creating that pre-listing packet first, you create the pre-listing packet and then you do the pre-listing questionnaire, and then you find out that they actually they're looking for certain things that you should have done in the pre-listing packet, or when you're creating that listing presentation. So the order is important on here to go through it one after the other, because you're really getting all the information at that beginning. So the pre-listing questionnaire is basically allowing you, right? Because until you know what they need, why would they set in a listing appointment with you? You didn't find out what they are looking for. Okay, I found out what they're looking for. Now I scheduled that appointment to review what we just found out together. Then what I'm doing is I'm sending the listing packet to them before I'm doing that listing presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to the walkthrough / listing appointment. But they're not going in blind, because they already filled out that pre-listing questionnaire. So you already built report that way. You already sent them the pre-listing packet So you build rapport that way. That's more resources that they have. You created that listing presentation only after judging the information off of the pre-listing questionnaire, because you want to have it customized to this person. And then you're going to the home walkthrough listing appointment. But on that home walkthrough or listing appointment, it's not like they've never met you before or you have no rapport, because you already did that pre-listing questionnaire. They already received that value from you from the pre-listing packet. Does that make sense?
Yep. And where do you tie, like if you do a CMA on their house, would you tie that into your listing presentation?
I would tie that to the listing presentation because I want to talk about it with them. Right. I don't just send them a CMA and not talk about it.
Also, if you just send them a CMA without talking about it, they may see it, but like Gupta mentioned earlier, if they're thinking about everything emotionally, I lost my train of thought, but
yeah. So if they send it, they review it, and then you don't talk about it, right? How do you think they feel how valuable you thought their opinions were? Right. You want to, it's more about the conversation, and that's why it's called a comparative market analysis versus like, here's a report, because you want to cover the analysis together. At least that's my mental opinion. I don't know where they actually came up with the term, but to me, that word choice feels very important. Right. Any other questions here today before we break the session and I let you get to your 10 contacts added to command today and having 10 conversations and your 10 handwritten notes? Right. These daily habits, they stay in place for the professionals who stay in the industry. These are the momentum pieces. There's one step, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Same way every marathon runner runs the Boston Marathon.
And if you're having trouble getting the habit and sticking to it, one thing you could do is, like I mentioned, you can leverage smart plans in order to build a habit. So you can send yourself a text message or email every day telling you to do these different steps. And then because you're using your KW Command app, you're just looking on it every day and being like, oh, did I do that task of getting 10 leads in my database? Oh, did I have these 10 conversations? And now it turns into check items that you're doing on your phone in order to keep up with it.
Right. And so this is the actual survey link. I grabbed the wrong slide when I did that. So if you looked at the checkpoint, you're probably like, there's no questions for Mike on this page. I'm new to the region. Hi, my name's Mike. Right. Everybody, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found this valuable, right? The plan was to equip you for that listing presentation, and these are the tools, these are the resources that you're going to need to be successful at the table. So my favorite phrase every time an agent left the office was, go get a listing. That was our high five moment, right? And whenever anything came up, it was like, great, so when's your next listing appointment? I always asked about this because this was the most fundamental piece that I saw successful agents doing, as they were working to be prepared for that next listing appointment. The ones who were, just kind of hanging out that I knew that eventually would just kind of flunk out of the business after 6 months, they were so focused on their Facebook page, on their branding, that they wouldn't do anything around the conversations or actually preparing to be professional in the moment. I don't want that to be you. And so I hope today gave you what you need to go be the professional agent for your clients. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to let you roll. It's about 11:20 here. Thank you so much. Stay warm because I know our cold weather is coming your way. But it's going to be a lovely weekend. Go get a donut. Go get some donkeys for me. If you have Moxie handy, let me know because I can't find it here in Illinois anymore. If you know an online place, let me know. And thank you so much. We'll see you guys around.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.